Reading the Bible is hard. Trust me. Hi, welcome to the first video in a series that I'm doing for LGBT charity Seventh-day Adventist Kinship. This spring, I will be giving 5 online lectures on the 7 Bible texts that people weaponize against LGBT people. The classes are going to be available for anyone interested in learning more and exploring LGBT affirming readings of the Bible, especially from a Seventh-day Adventist context. The link to sign up for these classes is in the description below if you want to join. Now, many people have said they cannot attend for one reason or another, and that's fine. And that's why I'm recording these short videos, so you can keep up if you miss a week or if you just can't make it at all. Welcome to Deconstructing the Clobber Texts. There are 7 Bible passages that many Christians use to attack LGBT people, and these are often called the Clobber Texts. 2 texts in Leviticus seem to say that men having sex with men is against God's will. In Genesis, God famously destroys the city of Sodom for the sin of sodomy, and Jude seems to refer back to this in his epistle. And then finally, 3 times, Paul refers to homosexuality in some way or another as a terrible sin. These are the 7 Clobber Texts. Before we can get into the nitty-gritty of understanding these texts, in this first video, we need to think a little bit about reading and writing. Because, my friends, reading the Bible is hard. So before we get to the Clobber Texts, let me take a quick excursion into a few Bible texts that are really difficult to read. Here are 2 sentences from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. Jesus' words here are super simple. If your eye leads you to sin, pluck it out. If it's your hand, chop it off. Now, I don't see many one-eyed Christians walking about, so not many people seem to take this literally. Different people read it in different ways. Some people say Jesus is being ironic or hyperbolic. He's over-exaggerating to make his point very clear. Others say Jesus is speaking metaphorically, like, if it's your eyes that are making you sin, well, notice this, and I don't know, like, cover them up, something like that. Some say it's an ethical matter, and we need to understand how dangerous sinning is, and that's why Jesus talks in such strong terms, because sin is so dangerous it warrants disfiguring your body. And maybe you've heard of these ways. Maybe you've heard of other ways to read this. The important thing to notice is how difficult it is to read this and agree on what it means. The most obvious and literal meaning that Jesus wants us to carry around in Acts at all times is by no means the one we hear the most. To help us think about these difficulties in more depth, we need to think about 2 sides of the same coin. On the one side, we have revelation, the writing of the Bible. On the other side, we have interpretation, the reading of the Bible. So let's start with the first, revelation and writing. Christians see the Bible as God's revelation to humanity. God reveals God's self through the Bible. But not only the Bible, right? Because God is revealed in nature, in lifestyles, in communities, in prophets, in many places. Yet the Bible remains an important holder of revelation. But many people have not really thought about that, how that would work specifically, precisely. Let's take Paul. Paul says God has revealed God's self to me. How does that work? Well, it's going to be something like this. Paul has a lifestyle in which he feels that he and God are close. He feels that God and God's Spirit guide his life. Maybe Paul hears some specific words from God, but mostly it seems that Paul feels his life led by God. Paul lives a godly life to the best of his capabilities and the revelation he received, tours the world, founds churches, writes letters of advice to these churches. Where then in all of that is God's revelation to Paul? If we were to say that it's just in the 13 letters that are attributed to Paul in the New Testament, we're selling both Paul and God short. Some fundamental Christians would say that those letters were dictated by God, but most would disagree. A much better answer, a much useful way of looking at it is that Paul, as a Spirit-led person, wrote to the best of his abilities, his knowledge and his culture. Where then is God's revelation? Well, it's a bit complicated then, isn't it? It's in Paul, it's in the Bible, but it's not the same thing as the Bible. God's revelation is in the Bible, and it's behind the Bible, and it's around the Bible. But the Bible and God's revelation are not and never are exactly the same thing. And sometimes Christians get those two things confused. They think that the Bible is God's revelation, and then they get stuck. So as we go forward with these classes, keep that in mind. Moving on to the other side of the coin, moving from revelation to interpretation, from writing to reading, we can also think about that in a bit more depth. I always ask my students two questions. Do we have to believe everything the biblical authors believed? It might seem like a difficult question, but it really isn't. Some biblical authors believed that the earth was flat. Do we have to believe that? Some biblical authors believed that slavery was okay. Do we have to believe that? Let's take the opposite question. Can we believe things that the biblical authors would disagree with? Again, this might seem like a difficult question, but it is not. I believe in gravity. Biblical authors didn't. I believe in gender equality. Most biblical authors didn't. We aren't required to believe the same things the biblical authors believed, and we can believe in things that they did not believe. This is normal and natural because they have part of their knowledge as revelation and part of their knowledge as culture, general knowledge of the time, things that they just were wrong about, all of that together. And this is why reading the Bible always requires interpretation. We did it almost automatically earlier with the example of not cutting out your eye or not enslaving foreigners. Interestingly enough, different people have different ways or strategies of dealing with interpretation issues. There are also many arguments about which one is best, and I'm not here for the arguments, but I'm interested in the interpretations. And as I look at it, there are a number that I run into, and they're quite interesting just to think about them and to think about, well, which one do you prefer? And which one do the people around you prefer? We have what I like to call the original meaning. And the question that people are trying to answer here is, what was the author trying to say? When Paul says something in the book of Romans, what is he trying to get across? Another option is, rather than the original meaning, to look for what we may call the first meaning. What did the first audience hear? How did they understand it? If you are Christian and you read the whole Bible together, you may prefer something like the biblical meaning, where you say, well, what does this mean in the context of the whole Bible? What can I do with these and these texts, knowing what I know about the rest of the Bible, and does that change how I read them? A very useful one in people's spiritual life is a personal meaning. What does it mean to me? Not just what did the author try to say or what did the audience try to hear, but what does it mean to me in my daily life? Or if we get together as a group, what does it mean to us? What meaning do we take from it? And then we can look a bit deeper. We can dig down and we can ask ourselves, well, is there a deeper spiritual truth that I could find or we could find that we're interested in? Or maybe we could look at the ethics. What ethics does the passage demonstrate? Is there some kind of ethical way that I should carry my life that this passage is trying to bring across? Or the eternal meaning. If we look down deep below this, what principles underlie this passage? Are there deep-seated principles that tell us about the nature of humanity or the nature of God or the nature of Christianity that underlie the passage? Now, there are many of these, as I said, and a lot of people flit between different ones depending on the passage or the situation. Some people read creation literally, but then when they get to some of Jesus' word, they read them spiritually. Or others, they read creation eternally, thinking about the principles of how the world fits together. But then they read the life of David from the audience perspective. And once you start to look for this, you'll see it everywhere, people jumping around different interpretations. And that's great, and that's natural, it's normal, and it's good. And in the coming months, as we tackle the Bible passages, we'll see how different reading strategies intertwine to make anti-LGBT readings of these passages. You'll see how readings are picked and chosen to make the Bible as anti-LGBT as possible, when this is not the only or the best option at all. So expect more videos to come. And if you want the classroom experience again, everyone is welcome. Register with the link below. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, like it and share it. Leave a comment, but please no homophobia. I do all this work for free because I believe in the cause, but sadly I also need to eat. If you like what I do and want to support me in this and other endeavors, please, you can support me over on Patreon. On that website, you can give me a few pounds, euros, dollars, whatever, every month so that I can keep working for important causes. If you can't support me financially, no worries. You're still awesome. Share the word, change the world.